Arsenal win back possession, and it's broken nicely to Cazorla, 30 metres from goal, plays it to the edge of the area. Alexis Sanchez goes for goal and scores. That's a brilliant goal from Alexis Sanchez. He's been Arsenal's star man this season, and maybe now they're going to get the right.
Hello and welcome to Gooners in the USA, ladies and gentlemen. I am Andy, and today I'm joined by Mike. How are you, sir?
Oh, it's so nice of you to have me on this week. I appreciate it, young sir. I miss the days when you used to lead off with a song after we won. I do think that we need to bring that back.
Hammer time. Go with the flow. Something.
Because you have absolute rhythm and timing is just unbelievable. How you been?
Yeah, I'm good. You?
Well, I'm nauseous. I'm dehydrated. I've been spending most of my day in the fetal position. Otherwise, I'm doing great, though. I'm in New Orleans. Everybody raves about the food in New Orleans, but I just seem to keep getting poisoned by it. So.
Yeah. From the text messages and videos and things I've seen on social media the last couple of days, it seems like you've been going through a lot of food poisoning, which is not good for the pod. But
no, someone needs to call the health department, I think. But I've taken my day off today, so that I could be a true professional and bring it.
Yeah,
on the podcast,
because you hone in and you try and ace your craft every week. Mike, you're at Gooner Gras. Tell us a little bit about it for those listening who don't know about it. What's the weekend all about?
Yeah, I mean this came at a perfect time. I mean, after last week, just kind of one of those shit weeks in the Arsenal world, at least on the pitch. With Watford and Chelsea, it was the perfect time for kind of a wake-up call, a massive reminder of what the Gooner lifestyle is all about, and just how incredible and huge it's become here in the U.S. And really, this weekend is about 200 or so folks from over 30 different cities in the U.S., from Canada, from England, and even someone from Hungary. Just descending on New Orleans for a festival of Goonerdom and debauchery and fun that you just have to kind of see to believe. It's good because you start to see some friendly faces, people you've met at, when the team was in California or a few years earlier in New York. And it's just another opportunity for us to kind of all reunite and have a good time and just a group whose sole common thread is this football team called the Arsenal. I mean, it could almost wash away the sting of those crap losses against Watford and Chelsea, but from 6:30 a.m. yesterday, Saturday, through the early afternoon hours, where people just started crashing for naps to get ready for the evening, we just watched and sang and celebrated a much needed victory from our boys. So yeah, it's a good weekend to be a Gooner.
Yeah, I could tell how much fun you were having, especially when you FaceTime me during the day with Joey.
Joey Murphy, who slept through the game.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, and slept through most of the day yesterday, as it appears. But I just was berated from the two of you for not being there. So it looked like a good weekend, and
a litany of you being for not coming.
Basically,
there's always next year. No, well, there's always a year after that.
That's true. So moving on, we're going to go to our weekly question. This weekend in Australia, Usain Bolt hosted an all-star competition where he mixed gender relays, had an elimination mile.
What is that? Elimination mile?
Apparently, it was you had to.
Did I trip somebody every quarter of a mile? Only one person left?
You had to be at a certain point in the mile that cut you off, and I think most of it was for charity. But Mike, if you could mix things into the football world, maybe from another sport, or just if you could change up what we know as the football world for maybe just a weekend or a week, what would you do?
This is an interesting look into the mind of Andy. I'm going to play off of your answers on this one because you wrote the question. So let's. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I'll go with my first initial thought. I would follow suit of the NFL, NHL, and I would, during our winter break, or the lack thereof, I would create.
What should be a winter break?
Yeah, I'd maybe create a 3 or 4 day period where all the teams have a rest, and we create an all-star weekend. And for those who aren't familiar, I think it's better in the NHL than it is the NFL, but they do skills competitions. So, they do shooting at the net, fastest skater, so we could do like the quickest 40. There's always those arguments: who's faster, Bellerin or someone else?
Bellerin
right?
Invitational,
absolutely. So
or Robert Snodgrass or any of those guys.
Yeah. So So what they do is they'll do the skills competition maybe on a Saturday, and on Sunday they'll do a player from each team. Over here they have conferences because the country's so fucking big, but we'd have to create a game, and we get to just see the skills come out. And I don't know, maybe it's for charity, but that would be my first thing.
I think they should take a page from the MLS, and believe me, this is the only time I will ever say this. But the MLS, as we know from Arsenal playing in it last summer, does kind of a League 11 against a foreign team. So, when you get the Premier League, the best league in the world, arguably, you put together the top 11 in the Premier League and bring in a team like Nagoya Grampus or something. I always go to Nagoya Grampus because it just reeks. It just, I mean, why wouldn't you? B, it just reeks of a team that's going to get slaughtered. And that would be just about as entertaining as most of the All-Star games are here in the U.S. But I do like your idea about the skills competition, though, because imagine each Premier League team gets to send one representative to do like a keepy-uppy contest that just keeps going until there's only one guy left.
Yep.
And then to make it interesting, after the first 10 guys are eliminated, they could start like throwing shit at the remaining players to take them off their game. Otherwise, it's going to last 4 or 5 hours. You're going to have David Silva out there going for like 2 days. But I mean, tell me you wouldn't buy a ticket to that and similar things like that. So, if we want Arsenal to succeed at these, we can have a relay race to see which team gets the most soft tissue injuries. just kind of jogging gently around the field. And, this way you can get to see the sight of Aaron Ramsey just kind of sitting down at the center stripe at Wembley, holding the back of his leg, making that little rotating substitution signal with his hands.
Well, I know back in the day, I think it was in the 90s, the NFL did a skills competition, and didn't a guy blow his ACL? And
it happens. I mean, the NFL All-Star Game called the Pro Bowl is one of the biggest wastes of time.
Oh, yeah, but this was like the actual skills competition before, and he blew his ACL, and I think it ended his career, so they stopped doing it. And then this year,
the skills competition was first person to break your ACL.
Yeah, but this year they brought it back, but instead of doing, silly things or measuring how fast they are, what have you, they played dodgeball, which... as stupid.
I don't think that's necessarily going to cut down on the injuries either.
No, but you know what? I was skiing the weekend they had it on, and we had it on in the background. It was actually pretty enjoyable to watch. We weren't paying too much attention to it, but it was kind of funny. On a more serious note, I think I would take a little bit of the rugby world, and I would add their style of refereeing. So I don't know if you're familiar with it, Mike, but the referee is mic'd, and you hear every interaction between him and the players. So whatever happens, if there's a card, you hear the interaction. And now, because it's live, the players are a little bit more respectful to the referee because they know that if they go over and complain to the ref, they're going to be on live television and you can hear what they're saying.
Looking like a douche.
Right. But what I also like is they get quick assistance from, an official watching on screen. And so if there is a questionable act within the play, there is a quick just question about, hey, what did I miss? And literally takes 5 to 10 seconds for this official to have a communication point to saying he was offside, it was a goal, what have you. So on a more serious note, that's I would bring into the game.
That's the most serious answer to a question that we've ever had, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with my final suggestion is that I happen to be watching a documentary series on ESPN here in the States that is amazing. It's called 30 for 30. And they have some of the best documentaries, including one about the Colombian soccer team, the two Escobars. Just fantastic. But they had one recently about the XFL, which, for those that don't remember, it was an American football league started by an alternative to the NFL, started by Vince McMahon of WWE fame.
God.
And it actually tried to compete with the NFL and appeal to the more, I guess, for lack of a better word, raw audience, but lasted one season. The league was hilarious. No. The whole thing was great. They put in wacky rules that were just just nuts and designed to make it like a Roman gladiator contest instead of a football game. But the one rule I would pull out of there and bring to the Premier League is the way they started the game. Instead of a coin toss to figure out which team got the ball first and kicked off, they put the ball at the 50-yard line, just sitting there on the ground, and each team's fastest or most rough player would run a race against each other from 20 yards away to see who could dive on and possess the ball first. And within the first month of the season, I think we had like 10 shoulder sockets flew off, 35 concussions. It was just a complete shit show for two people just essentially just ramming into each other to start off a game. But tell me you wouldn't want to see Yaya Toure and Joey Barton going at it over the ball at the beginning of the game.
Could you imagine? I mean, it would be Yaya Toure diving on the ball and Joey Barton just fucking annihilating him in the face with his knee or something. I mean,
frankly, having the ball to start the game isn't exactly like that big of an advantage. So you would know what you were up against when you had like Theo Walcott out there for his speed, and then the other team just puts out a rugby player like Joey Barton or some shit like that. Be like, this is not going to end well. But it would make for an interesting game.
It would make for an interesting game.
Maybe Joey Murphy wouldn't sleep through the game if he knew it was going to start that way.
I think that ratings are just waiting to skyrocket with these ideas. So who do we talk to?
Well, I'm going straight to a patent attorney.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%.
Wait, Andy, don't put this pod online for
I was going to say, these ideas are already patented.
Yes, patent pending.
And anyone who's trying to steal them, we have lawyers.
Yes, we have a team of
my
lawyers.
Lawyer is you, Mike. I don't know who your lawyer is, but my lawyer is you.
My lawyer is the same person as my butler is.
Your wife?
Yes, exactly. All right, so we've spent 10 minutes talking about how to improve the Premier League.
Yeah, and we've done that successfully.
How about the Premier League yesterday? How'd it go?
Oh man,
I gotta be honest. This game's a little bit foggy, my friend.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
It was foggy for me because it was again another 5:30 a.m. kickoff, and so in true fashion, I rolled over, turned my iPad on, and watched the game. And again, foggy, but really liked the lineup. Thought to myself instantly, lots of pace. Loved the fact that we put Sanchez back up front. I thought that when we changed that lineup and put Giroud in, we just weren't as strong. And I thought yesterday, really impressed with the lineup and liked the fact that we were kind of going back to outside of Chelsea that game. We were going back to a lineup that could actually help possess and dominate from the get-go.
Well, it basically was the same lineup as Chelsea, with one exception being Gibbs over Monreal, which I think was well deserved. I don't know if there was anything more to it than tactical, but I mean, it was the speed lineup that we thought we needed against Chelsea, and I liked the lineup for that game. It just didn't. The execution wasn't there.
Right.
I was very surprised though to see Hector Bellerin in the game.
I was too.
I mean, look, I'm not involved. This may come as a huge surprise to many of you, but I'm not actually involved in the midweek testing or the concussion protocol. They don't consult me. But concussions in general are not something to fuck around with. And it just, it doesn't seem like the football world necessarily grasps that yet.
Not yet. I don't think it's as big of a deal.
It's better than it was a few years ago when guys are playing in the World Cup final and having no idea that they played in the World Cup final. But dude got rocked just a week earlier, and I don't know throughout the week how he could have stepped out on the field during the week to train. It takes a while to go from where am I to I'm going to play a full 90. I'm also going to patent that, by the way. That one might be taken. Sorry, guys. But yeah, from my own foggy recollection from food poisoning, he had a reasonably good game. But I mean, still, is that worth the risk?
It's not, and I am surprised that you aren't at least given a phone call for your expertise midweek.
Courtesy.
At least a courtesy call.
Simple courtesy.
But, based off of how Arsene runs this team, I don't know if I'm surprised that he was playing, but no, I mean, they're not going to risk him, and I'm sure he passed all protocols and was ready to play, and we're not a team that's afraid to rest a player if they need it. So in my opinion, he was probably raring to go and
I mean, I guess so.
It was probably more of a precaution taking him off in the first game, and that kind of
that was a refreshing thing to see, not 5 minutes on the sideline deciding to put him back in the game again, but and that could have made all the difference. But to me, my understanding, Dr. Feinberg is on the show now and said that it's not the actual concussion that is the biggest risk. It's the fact that once you've had a concussion, it gets that much easier before it's fully healed to just get a second concussion just by being tapped on the side of the face. I mean, it's and that's what worries me. It's the risk that didn't apparently happen, but that could have. And you got to be thinking of his career in general and not just the one game against Hull. So,
Yeah, I agree. Moving on. Sanchez goal.
Risk that worked out. Yeah, Sanchez finally puts us in the lead.
Yeah, a little controversy behind this one. I don't know. I believe he unwittingly uses his arm. In real time, it was just an awkward bounce. If the goal went against us, I think I'd be pissed, but it didn't, so I'm not. But, watching it on replay and listening to professional analysts, I mean, it wasn't like he went searching for the ball. His arm was in. I hate the whole natural versus unnatural position. If you're okay, what was that?
Yes, I did bring the bell with me to New Orleans. the unnatural position.
The unnatural position of your arm. We saw it in this game, right? When Lucas headed the ball, that's an unnatural position in your arm because you're blatantly stopping the ball from going in. But Sanchez's body movement, that was what was natural for him at the moment. And it took an unfortunate bounce, went into the back of the net. It's a goal. Get over it. 1-0 Arsenal.
He didn't punch it in,
no.
but that ball wasn't going in unless it hits off his arm either. And I think Hull might have been a little hard done by. I thought initially, because I was a little far away from the TV, I thought initially it went in off his penis. But I mean, once I looked at the replay and really searched really closely, it does seem to support that it hit off his arm instead. So I think you're right about that.
And you love a slow-mo penis montage.
Stop there, please. You're right, I do. No, but little one-upsmanship between Alexis and Koscielny this year. The little competition going to see who can get better goals off of their arms. Frankly, it is just a bad bounce for Hull. Ball's not going in. He volleyball spikes it unintentionally, like you said, and they're immediately appealing, but to no avail. And at that point in the game, I'm thinking maybe Clattenburg is actually still making a claim for the Arsenal job.
Isn't that really bizarre? Clattenburg on the side of Arsenal?
Again, this is not the first time this year he's been the man of the match.
It's very weird.
I know. I just wish he was that way during the derby, because I think this is the third game that he's reffed. The first one was Leicester, and he was our man of the match. Yesterday, I'd say he's arguably our man of the match. Him and Sanchez. The derby, not so much, but that's when we really needed him. So he's got a little work to do still. But go ahead.
No, I felt Hull were definitely hard done by because they definitely started both halves very strongly, and they were unfortunate not to get more from this game. The second goal, obviously, wrapped things up, but it's really too bad that they didn't get more from this because they played a decent match, and I thought they should have they should have gotten a little bit more, we got extremely lucky. Lucky.
If I'm a Hull supporter, I do two things right now. First, I kill myself.
Oh God!
Because there's no point in living. But after that, I feel pretty bad about how that game, how different that game could have been if it's still 0-0 in the second half because of a disallowed goal, and Hull's taking a second half free kick with us down to 10 men because what happened in the second half?
Absolutely. I mean, I was about to say, if it wasn't a big enough kick in the penis that Sanchez scores that goal, it's that we have 11 men on the pitch because, do you think Gibbs should have been red carded?
It's hard not to think that it could, it's certainly a call that would have normally been made. Apparently Clattenburg told Gibbs that it wasn't a red because the ball was going away from the goal, but that's not how it looked to me on the replay. It was going directly to the goal. If that was Mike Dean in there or one of our, Lee Mason or whoever, Mike Dean would have been cartwheeling and flipping his way over to Gibbs, or maybe even to Chambo, because it can get confusing.
Theo would have been sent off in the end, though.
Yeah, exactly. Hoist up the red card and then fall to the ground like a ballerina dramatically. I mean, he would have been skipping and flitting and couldn't have gotten over there soon enough to raise the red card. But Clattenburg, again, he's the standout guy. His Opta rating was an 11 yesterday.
Oh yeah, I mean, he deserved it. He deserved it. So looking at the lineup, another point that really honed it, and lack thereof central midfield, the Ox. Again, he impressed. For not being a central midfielder, Mike, he's done his best in the position. And I'd really like to see him partner with Xhaka in there, because Xhaka will be naturally inclined to stay back. And the Ox, I love just his want for the ball. And we've just been desperate in the last couple games to have someone who drops deep to receive the ball and push it forward. And he's doing that really well at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, my only complaint about him is that it seems like he's holding the ball too long. He's trying to dribble through some cul-de-sacs, and and not looking for the pass early enough. So I just remember 2 or 3 times against Chelsea, and now Chelsea's not that easy to slice and dice your way through, but just him going against 2 to 3 people and just shutting them down completely. But the experiment in general with him in the middle is not failing. So I mean, given that, we'll probably see Coquelin and El Neni on Wednesday against Bayern.
I really hope. More than likely, yes. I really hope if there is going to be a change, it's El Neni, because the statistics with Coquelin starting in that position are just absolutely terrifying. But for me to just stick up a little bit for the Ox, when you watch Chelsea line up 3 in the back, 5 in the midfield, for not being a central midfielder and then playing against 5 other central midfielders, it's really tough, So you're right, he did dribble a little too much into cul-de-sacs, but one thing we always talk about is Arsenal's inability to match like for like. We saw Tottenham play Chelsea and match them like for like and do well. We saw Burnley today, and we'll talk about it a little more later, play 2 up top, which gave Chelsea problems because they see a 3 in the back and they go, hey, let's throw 2 up. And, we just didn't do that. We don't tactically change. And so I do feel a little bit sad for the Ox. He didn't get a standout game for Chelsea. But that being said, I'd like to see him play against Bayern in the central midfield position and possibly match with Xhaka, who we've desperately missed in the last 4 matches for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Walcott. Jeez, I mean, let's talk about his little bit of scuffle. I'm glad to see him wearing his passion on his sleeve. If he's not going to be putting the ball in the back of the net, which we've become accustomed to, Mike.
Yes, we have.
But I want to see him get himself into situations where, he's an excellent assist on or at least a partial setup on the beginning of the goal for Sanchez. But what concerns me is that he gets into the scuffle with a man 12 times his size, and nobody came to back him up. Like, if Xhaka's on the pitch, he's there within a second.
I'd like to think so.
And back in the days where Vieira...
He would have been sliding in with 2 feet.
Oh, absolutely. But back in the Vieira days, no man would have been left behind in that situation. Dude would have been there immediately. Yeah. And that's for me, Mike, it's just a gaping hole of the lack of leadership we have on this team right now. Because Wilshere would have been over there immediately. I'm keen to believe Giroud would have been. Also Rambo. I think they would all have been over there, but no one came to dude's rescue.
Yeah, I mean the scuffle itself was probably my favorite part of the game. I mean we're standing there watching the game, and he didn't walk. First of all, he didn't walk away like he did in the big confrontation with you in San Jose. So he clearly
the truth hurts, Mike.
Learned a lesson since July in how to handle confrontation. But second, we're all just standing there going like, damn, what got into Theo this morning? And just the line of the week. My new friend Robbie from Hungary, the Hungarian Gooner that came over, just goes, his coffee machine broke. Fucking just deadpans it with no hesitation at all. And we just busted out laughing so hard, in fact, that we didn't even really notice how long it took Coquelin to, reluctantly join hold him back. Like, please hold me back. Come on, man.
Seriously.
It took like 20 minutes. Where's Koscielny in that situation?
That's why I'm saying we're lacking a leader. Like in that, I'll do it again, Mike. Go to the NHL. Go to hockey. What happens the moment one of your players gets into a scuffle?
Touches a goalie or anything, yeah.
What happens?
Yeah, it's melee. It's a melee.
The team, even if it's a hard hit, someone on the team is dropping gloves and there's a fight. Now, we can't do that in the league, but it would at least get a couple other bodies
Nor
over
would that
there.
go well for us if we did.
No, totally, but get a couple other bodies over there and at least back up Theo just a little bit.
Yeah,
just a little.
This is where Koscielny feels more like Captain Crunch than the captain of Arsenal. It's just like, come on. Man up.
So the game was ended with the penalty, and it's just what we needed at the time to see off the game. Can't really argue the penalty. I mean, it was a professional foul. I feel bad for Lucas, though, because the guy worked so hard. It would have been nice to have seen him put the ball in the back of the net. But at the end of the day, it was the game-winning goal, and well, not really the game-winning goal, but
it sealed the deal, and right up until that point, there was certainly no feeling of security that those 3 points were in the bag. So, it was just going to be a nail biter till the very end, and then obviously they put everything that they could forward, and we were able to spring the counterattack and keep it going. But yeah, Lucas, again, his work rate. Maybe it's because he's only asked to run for 15 minutes a week, but like his work rate to get into the positions that he's in and not give up on the play just because it looks like Sanchez is going to be able to dribble around the keeper and put it in.
Well, what a beautiful pass though from
he's forced
Sanchez.
That far wide and then he just puts it right onto Lucas's head. But Lucas got to be in that position, and he was.
Yeah. Just a quick thought, Mike. Attendance. There was.
By the way, that penalty. Not very well taken.
Oh no, it was a terrible. It was
terrible penalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, any penalty that hits the inside of the net is a good penalty, but that was a incredibly savable penalty.
Oh, 100%. And so considering the last couple of Sanchez penalties, if you're a goalie, you just want to stand in the middle and not move.
That's what I'm saying. How hard is?
Yeah, and if he would have done that, that would have been saved. But. Quick thought on attendance, Mike. There were a lot of empty seats. I heard a number of maybe 10,000 total. Supporters are frustrated. Is this, you hear a lot of the marches. You hear a lot of the let's hold up signs, and last season that failed because the majority of attendees that go to these games are clearly not on Twitter or social media, but are we starting to now see some of those regular attendees just say, this is it, I'm done? Or do you think this was just a one-off?
I doubt. I mean, either that or 2 degrees Celsius and rain, is not the most pleasant environment to take in a football match. It was apparently bitter cold and unpleasant yesterday. But, if this was a game where we were in the title hunt and it was against Chelsea, there probably wouldn't have been 10,000 empty seats. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to watch the empty seat metric going on for the rest of the season, but I wouldn't think that this was a wholesale boycott situation yet, and I'll be interested to see the next few. It certainly is not going to be empty against Bayern.
No, not at all.
Petr Cech had a pretty good. I thought he was solid yesterday, and he needed to be because he's starting to get a lot. He's starting to get slated quite a bit for his play lately, and a couple of his saves were just kind of reminders that size you can't teach, and him tipping the ball over the top of the net at least once. I don't know if there were more, but I felt good with him back there. So maybe he's staved off the switch with Ospina a little bit longer, but I do start to hear rumblings that we're in the market for a keeper next summer.
Yeah, he has. I tweeted out, Mike, because I was watching the West Ham-West Brom match yesterday, and I really like Fraser Foster a lot as a keeper. And he's pushing Joe Hart for that England number 1.
Doesn't he play for Southampton, Foster?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then,
West Brom keeper.
Oh, is that Ben Foster?
No, I think it's Fraser Foster.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, wait, it is Ben Foster. Anyway.
That was just me showing Andy up. Sorry about that.
No, I'm really impressed with
We just need to get a Foster of some sort, because I actually do like Fraser Foster quite a bit.
No, I like him too, but Ben Foster. And
Foster, whatever his name is.
Ben Foster plays just out of his skin against big teams. He made some huge saves yesterday, and I really feel like if there's a young English keeper on the rise, it's him. It'd be great to have him come in and fight for that number one position with Ospina if Czech does retire. And let's be honest, I mean, we're closer to Czech retiring than him signing a new contract, right?
Yeah.
So I think Ospina is going to be a great number one keeper, but I don't see us holding on to Szczesny. So at the end of the day, we do need a backup or someone to at least fight competitively.
Yeah, and I just don't know that you want to go into another season where, I mean, not another season, but I mean, you don't want to go into next season with Martinez as your backup.
No,
I think he's, from all accounts, he's got some talent, but I don't know if it's number one for Arsenal talent.
No,
and you got to have a backup keeper be ready to be number one for Arsenal.
Here's the thing, though, remember that back in the day when Edwin van der Sar sat at Fulham for years and years, and we all knew he was a great keeper, and then United came in and snapped him up? That's what's going to happen with one of these keepers, because they're both 32, 33, and that's, you can get 4 or 5 great years out of a keeper. So it might be worth dishing out $3 to $5 million and seeing if we can acquire one of the two and have them fight for that spot. But I don't think
or we could spend 5 times as much and bring in Joe Hart. that's the other option that's being discussed, bandied about.
Yeah, I don't know. So we get a win, we get a clean sheet.
Yeah, and then Spurs and Chelsea both drop points, so there's just a ridiculous clusterfuck in second to sixth place right now. But we're still 10 points behind Chelsea. Any amendments to make about the Premier title being decided declarations from last week?
No, it's over. Chelsea will finish the season as champions. Mike, think about this, right? And we'll talk about it a little bit later, but we still have to go play Liverpool.
Yeah.
We still have to play Tottenham. And that Liverpool game is away. And those fuckers like to...
So it's the Tottenham game.
Right, but those fuckers like to do things at home to top 6 players. So there's no way that we are going to watch Chelsea drop 3 games, 4 games, and we're going to capitalize on that. We're just not good enough. So
yeah, no, it's still over. I mean, Chelsea has some 6-point games left, but our 6-point game was last weekend, and we blew it, and it's just too big of an ask.
No, it is, and it's unfortunate because
and the crazy thing is, I do think someone else could catch them. I think City could catch them.
I don't know,
potentially, but Chelsea's going to have to go through an enormous rough patch, lose the 6-pointer, and then maybe somebody could make it interesting. But I don't think it's going to be us.
If any team's going to catch them, it would be Liverpool at this point, and they just defensively are not there, which is frightening, Mike, because they are 1 or 2 defensive players away from being ridiculously good.
And a new coach. No, I'm just kidding. Klopp went from being just gold to being garbage in 2 months. It's just a phase. He's better than that.
Oh, but if he's garbage, then what's our manager?
That's true.
Anyway.
So it's over. It's over.
Speaking of managers, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, Mike, but Ian Wright came out before the weekend, said that he had dinner with Arsene, and it sounds like he was actually at a dinner function with many other people, because a lot of people went online and were giving him a ton of shit about, well, you shouldn't be sharing this, but it sounds like Arsene had said to the room, it's coming to an end. And now we're coupling it with reports out of Italy that keep suggesting that Max Allegri is leaving Juve at the end of the season. Allegri gets interviewed on Friday after the Juve win, asks about his connections, and he gives the plain and simple answer, I don't want to talk about this. I'm contracted through the end of the season. Through the years, there have been conversations that maybe Arsene's past his prime. In the 20 years I've been supporting Arsenal, Mike, I can't remember this amount of press regarding a new Arsenal manager. When Klopp was on the outs at Dortmund and took some time off, you heard, maybe he's in the mix, but it was squashed really quick. We're not not squashing rumors now. All of a sudden it's picking traction. And I don't know, man. I really think that this could be it. And if it is it, we need to get behind this manager 100% and give him the send-off he deserves.
There's no question behind that. And that's why I wish that, especially now that it is kind of Premier League-wise a lame duck portion of the season, I personally think it would be nice to have some clarity on the situation that we,
You haven't gotten the call? They haven't called you about it?
No, that's what I'm telling you. I've been sitting, maybe it's because I'm out of town this weekend and they
you're
can't
just not
reach
getting
me.
Maybe they're calling your home.
They have my home number. So
that's it.
Yeah, but I thought that the full quote from Ian Wright was that he said it's coming to an end within the next 10 years.
So what he meant to say was, after he signs his 2-year contract, it will be coming to an end 5 years from that point.
Yes, exactly. 5 years from the expiration of my next 3 contracts, it will be coming to an end. I did hear that he made a comment though that he's in no way ready for a rest. So in other words, if he leaves Arsenal, it's not going to be to retire. It probably won't even be to move upstairs.
I think he said something along the lines that he was happy that people were concerned about his state of health or something along that line. But you're right. Maybe he doesn't step down. Maybe he steps away from Arsenal and goes and manages the French national team. Who knows? But
that job isn't available though right now. So I mean, it's I guess it would be if he became available, but or the PSG job, especially if they don't win.
But what better way to squash rumors of saying, "Oh, I'm not going anywhere," to say Arsenal's a great media man. He's like the Theo Walcott of managers. Always says the right thing.
He's the Theo Walcott of managers. That's not that previously would not have been a compliment coming from you. But I don't know if his quote about not being ready to take a rest is legit. Then he's not stepping down from Arsenal, and he's not being asked to leave. So I mean, it is literally there is a contract that either has been signed or is on his desk, and it's just up to him at this point. And I don't see him failing to sign it. I think he's immune to. I mean, he certainly gets bugged by it, but he's not going to give in to the pressure from the fans. He's not paying attention to Twitter. He mentions it a little too much for my liking. He makes reference to, his comments this week didn't thrill me, although they were also kind of blown way out of proportion about the Tottenham fans.
Yeah.
That was a media creation, but he did, in answering that question and referencing other teams, go someplace that he didn't need to go.
I agree.
And so I didn't love that, but it also wasn't the incredibly ridiculous travesty that everyone made it out to be.
Well,
but he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere.
No, I know he's not. Speaking of contracts and people going somewhere, Mike, simple yes or no question. If we lose Sanchez, is Marco Reus a worthy replacement, assuming we try and sign him?
No.
Great. So midweek this week,
now I'll expand on that. I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying he's not a worthy replacement for Alexis. There would be very few people that I think could be worthy replacements for him.
Royce's injury record with Dortmund is atrocious. So imagine if he played for us. Jesus, we'd never see him play.
He would get hurt during the medical. He would get hurt.
Right.
They would put the little sensors on his chest, and it would go into his chest, and he'd start bleeding.
It'd be so midweek we're away to Bayern. I'm terrified of this match, Mike, because I feel like in typical Arsenal fashion, we'll squeak a win. Arsene signs a new deal. We'll lose the home leg, get knocked out of the away at home on the away goal rule, and then we'll lose the Sutton during that period as well.
So he's gonna sign the contract in between the 2 Bayern games.
Yeah.
Well, that would be interesting. But we don't squeak wins against Bayern until said win is becomes not enough to actually win. The consolation win, the moral victory in the second leg. So yeah, exactly. But yeah, if we go to Munich and win that game, he's going to announce that he signed the new deal, and your whole your whole thing that you've laid out here is probably going to happen, and the Sutton thing will happen as well.
I just wish that we would do something to break the Champions League duck.
I thought you were going to say Arjen Robben's leg.
Well, I'd do that too.
Is he healthy? Is he playing?
I'm not sure.
If he is, he's good for one of those curled in goals off of his left foot from the right side.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Monreal, Gibbs, can you please pay attention? Oh yeah, he'll just try. And can I just say, by way of previewing, if we see Alex Iwobi on the left wing in that game to start, I'm not watching.
Well, 100% he's going to start.
It's got to be Welbeck.
It does.
Gotta be.
We're not gonna put Welbeck in to start this match. It'll be Iwobi.
We need someone that can play defense, but all right, that's another story. So speaking of
stories.
Of controversy and stories, the whole Tottenham comments from Wenger almost kind of pushed this out of the limelight. But I don't know how big of a story this is in the UK either. But Craig Burley on Tuesday, in an ESPN FC showing here in the US, goes on a 3-minute rant on Arsenal's weaknesses, Arsene Wenger's ineffectiveness, and then essentially just trains his thoughts onto the supporters, and just makes this sweeping generalization that Arsenal supporters are weak, spineless, and perfectly content to accept mediocrity. Andy, did you think that this was a fair comment?
No, I mean, clearly the guy doesn't know football or Arsenal. I mean, any asshat can go onto Twitter and see our fan base at the moment. Gary Neville.
That's funny because his Twitter handle is actually @asshat.
I mean, Gary Neville made national news in the UK, so you'd think Craig Burnley would know this, commenting on Arsenal fan TV, right? So obviously, what happens with the Arsenal Twitter sphere, know and hear or see what happens, right? But if he thinks that the majority of our fan base accept mediocrity, he clearly doesn't know football, or for that, Twitter, because that's where everyone at this point goes to vent their frustration. And okay, so he goes on a 3-minute rant about Arsene's ineffectiveness. He basically has just said what we've all been saying the last 10 years, that we have a manager who can't tactically change in a match, goes out and does the same thing, has a huge transfer kitty, all this stuff, right? So he goes and says that. But then to go on and attack our fans, if you're calling supporters who attend the Emirates weak and spineless, he should be fired from his job, because these are people that pay to go and support their team, right? And it's not easy for an Arsenal supporter to give up a season ticket because you're not going to get it back. The waiting list is too long. So it's super unfair for him to say that we're weak and spineless because we're still supporting our team and that fans are still attending the matches, because at the end of the day, it's a team that we support and love. You don't just jump off the bandwagon because you're not winning, right? That's what Manchester United supporters do. That's what City supporters do. That's what Chelsea supporters do. But our supporting, like our fan base, Mike, if I meet someone in the last 5 years who says, yeah, I'm an Arsenal fan, I'm always like, why? Because it's just not a natural reaction, because we're just not winning, you know? And when you talk to those fans, their natural reaction is, I like the way that they play. I was attracted from the style. I like the color red, or whatever it is, right? But it's bullshit that this guy comes out and says this when we are not winning. And so you're attacking a fan base that are sticking behind their team during like a shitty time frame.
Yeah, there's kind of 3 groups of supporters that I've always identified. I mean, there's people who I wouldn't use the word weak and spineless, but they're perfectly content with the current state of the club. They're willing to to go through peaks and valleys, and to them, it's not Wenger's fault. It's not anything out of the ordinary. It's just the way that football is, and frankly, more power to you for being able to not get upset about it and to still enjoy the team that you love. You got a group of people that are just kind of getting a little ticked off about it. Would like to see change, but they're not going to go ranting and raving on the press or on Twitter. And then there is that group of fans who are completely tired of it. They're angry. They're impatient. They're despondent. In a lot of cases, unfortunately, they can be incredibly rude and disrespectful about it. But there's no way you can say they're spineless or willing to accept mediocrity. So, I mean, his comments completely fail to take into account the split that we do have in our fan base, which is becoming somewhat of a rift, actually. And, he just kind of assumes that because there hasn't been a change that's been forced through fan action, that means we're all willing to accept it. And what he's completely overlooking is the fact that we have, compared to City, compared to United, compared to Liverpool even, a very unique ownership and management situation here. Mm-hmm. And no other club would be as resistant to change, as willing to kind of overlook the fan discontent, so profit driven, unfortunately, that they don't need to worry about things like mediocrity or underachieving in some people's eyes. And we can't vote out the chairman like at Real Madrid. There's not the level of accountability until you have an effect on the bottom line, which is, years and years of boycotts and people giving up their tickets and that sort of thing. And so, I'm not sure exactly what he wants us to do. If he just wants us to whine more, or if he thinks there's some sort of action that can be taken to change the way things are. But that just really kind of, it was a little window into some misunderstanding about the fan base there. And I think he deserved all of the criticism that he got over it, unfortunately. But,
at the end of the day, Mike, the media, if you work for the media, Arsenal is an absolute goldmine. Because you can basically go out and say and do anything, and you're going to get media clicks and views, right? Because we just have such a large fan base.
That gives me an idea. We should start a podcast about Arsenal.
Right? But to echo your point, what does he expect? Because if we run our club like Chelsea, where if a manager doesn't do well, they get fired, we become a club that recycles through managers. And when you go back and you look at the history of Arsenal and you look at the history of Chelsea, unless you're a Chelsea fan, everyone else knows the reason why Chelsea are good. They got bought by a billionaire who runs the club as a fun hobby rather than a business, right? And there's no bigger laughingstock than Chelsea. And sooner or later, Roman Abramovich is going to get either KGB style murdered, or he's going to walk away from Chelsea, and that team and that franchise is going to struggle. One thing you can say about Arsene, through all the frustrations, he is putting the club into a position to survive long term. I don't want to be at a club where we cycle through managers every 2 to 3 years. I prefer that we stick with one manager and we give them time. I think we've stuck with one a little bit too long, but I prefer to be that ladder where we say, okay, this is your team now for 3 to 5 years, and the only way that you leave is if on your own accord you go, or you lose
the locker room.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's I don't personally care for the guy. Other videos that I've watched, he seems like that I'm going to poke the fan base of whatever team. And He usually only does it to the teams that are down at the moment, right? Because if we go on a 5-game winning streak, he won't discuss Arsenal. He'll go to the next team and the next fan base where he can get viewers and clicks, because that's how he keeps his job.
Right. It'll be about Leicester's struggles right
Absolutely.
now.
Or it'll be like, let's say, United go on a slump. He'll go and attack Jose. He'll go and attack the United fans, because
that's okay. That's okay with me.
Which is fine. But then he can turn around to his boss and go, well, you want to renew my contract because look at all these views and media clicks that I get when I release these videos. And I will say that if we're going to get someone from ESPN FC, Mike, it's got to be Shaka Hislop.
Well, I have my eyes set on someone else, but
so moving on. Let's go to listener questions. So at Digital Baggage asks if an Arsenal
he has come up with some strong questions questions and comments in the last few weeks. I like his stuff.
I do too, and this question is based off of our guest last week, Taz, who was getting mooned during the podcast by one of his Sutton United friends. He asks if an Arsenal player was to moon you while recording this podcast, who would you like it to be?
It came down to a tough decision, but I'm going to go with Heather O'Reilly.
Okay.
That's the name of the American that just signed there, right? That, for some reason, it's not sounding right now, but yeah, I mean, he made the fatal mistake, Mr. Baggage, of not specifying it had to be from the men's team. And because I'm assuming he doesn't want me to pick somebody from the under 18 team, because that would just be wrong, I'm going to go with Heather O'Reilly.
And I too followed suit, and I don't know if you right now are doing anything in life, you want to stop and Google Carla Humphrey, who is also on the Arsenal women's team. Holy hell, Mike.
Carla Humphrey. Ooh.
She is beautiful.
Yeah. Certain things just moved a little bit for me.
And she can moon me anytime.
Including during the podcast. In fact, that's going to be a requirement for the podcast from now on. Another regular listener, questioner, Justin Pierce. The question writer. Justin Pierce checks in again this week with a serious question, actually. He says, we keep telling people this is not the podcast for that. He says, does Wenger's statement that the title race is never over do more harm than good? It's obvious why he said it. The players have to believe in something. But would it be better if he hung them out to dry a little bit by calling them out? Does his seemingly endless optimism have a sharp edge? Andy.
It's a good question, and
podcast sigh.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I don't read the questions beforehand, as you know, so it's I like to be on the spot, but yeah, Wenger's really good at saying until it's mathematically over, it's not over. He's more of a player manager. I don't ever see him hanging a player out to dry. Take the likes of Ozil at this moment in time. Dude's form is absolutely terrible. Do you really think having your manager call you out in the press is going to help bolster your performance on the field, especially when we're in a phase where we're trying to get some of these guys to re-sign? I would prefer he just come out and say what he's saying, but again, it takes onus on him not preparing us properly for certain matches to keep us within the title race.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a no-win situation. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't call it optimism more than just pragmatism. I think if that's even the right word. But like when you're constantly being asked to provide a yes or no answer about a league campaign that's more than likely over with 3 months left, I mean, you can't win that, because if you say it's not over, you look desperate and misguided and like you're holding on to something and you're unrealistic, even though technically he's right, it's not over. And then if you say it is over, so that you kind of express dissatisfaction and a kind of a sharp tongue lashing to your team, it looks like you've given up on them. Mm-hmm. And you're right. I mean, at this point where we need these guys motivated and some of them we want to want to have a future here, you can't give up on the season 3 months left in it. So, we criticize him for his difficulty in finding ways to motivate his players consistently anyway. We wonder what the motivation and the pregame talk is, and when they come out like they did against Watford or against Bournemouth, I don't really think it would be logical for him to be giving them further license to give up on the Premier League for the season by saying it's over.
No, and if he had come out in that Chelsea match and did what Tottenham did and said, okay, you're going to go out 3-5, whatever, we're going to match you. And we're going to tactically make a change to match you and do what we do, then I would turn around. If Arsene did that and made those changes and the players were failing, then I wouldn't mind him coming out and calling out and saying, hey, our players are the reason we're 10 points behind. But right now, the reason we're 10 points behind is because we are not making those changes, and so it's fully on him.
The game plan's done 2 months in advance, and
the game plan's been the same 5 years, and
it's not adjusted based on any kind of new information that may become available.
Look at Bayern right now. They're absolutely licking their lips playing us because we are just the same team every season, and you can make minor adjustments. And Bournemouth did it. Watford did it. I mean, that Watford game was plain and simple. Attack Bellerin side, attack Bellerin side, attack Bellerin side, because he wasn't in the game, right? And we did not have the ability to change during the match to squash that, and they took the lead. And the rest is history. But it's a great question, Mike.
But thank you. I wrote it myself. No, I'm just kidding. No, Justin is an actual person.
Yeah, but it's a great question. But I think that we need the manager to be making the politically correct and the media correct responses. Otherwise, we fall into having a Jose Mourinho who sulks in the press conference. And like you said, it's got to get frustrating answering these questions all the time. Personally, I'd love to have a Bill Belichick type of manager who just looks at the reporter and says, "That's a stupid question. Next." Because then you don't get asked the same question all the time. But we don't have that. But it would be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice. Maybe we will at some point. So the rest of the Premier League kind of helped us out a little bit this week.
Yeah. We saw some games. Tottenham lose 2-0 away to Liverpool. Yet again, Liverpool do something against the team in the top 6. We're equal to the scum, but they lead us on goal difference at the moment. And I tell you, as I said before, Mike, I'm terrified of our trip to Liverpool. Yeah,
that's a 6-pointer. That's for sure. I mean, that's going to go a long way in determining where in the top 6 we end up finishing. But it doesn't endorse a lot of confidence, or espouse a lot of confidence, especially with all the games that we have shortly after. And we'll also be about 2 weeks of layoff, I think, in between Sutton and Liverpool. With nothing, and for some reason we don't get rested when we lay off for 2 weeks. We just look stale and sleepy at the beginning of the game, and that's what I fear. Liverpool is them getting off to a quick start.
Yeah. And then today we saw Chelsea draw with Burnley. So Chelsea's still 10 points ahead of the pack, which is a lot of fucking points, Mike. But the only, I doubt this is a blip with Chelsea. Burnley just hit him hard with 2 up front. And, with the rest of us who are chasing them playing in Europe this week, they get time to rest and recalibrate from that draw. I don't see us catching Chelsea unless they get hit with major injury. Diego Costa goes out, maybe Hazard goes out, then I could see us trying to claw them back. But unless they get hit with major injury, it's too little too late.
No, and the lack of European football. I mean, it's almost like you want to be in Europe every year, but if you're not going to be in Europe, you want to be completely out of Europe and not in the Europa League. Yeah, well, and not losing 5 players as you crash out of Europe, because if you can keep your team together without European football, you will make a stronger challenge the next year. We've just seen it time and time again, like that year that Liverpool finished second. Nearly won the title a couple years ago. It's because they were out of Europe and they had the ability to rest. So, in February, March timeframe is when it really starts to kick in.
Yeah, it really does.
We're not catching them. We're not going to catch them. No, we're not going to catch them. And speaking, as we love our segues, speaking of not being able to catch somebody, pick'ems. We have. We have
tell it like it is, Mike.
To normal service. Yeah, well, this is the worst part of the pod for me. This week it was Andy with 3 points, Taz from the Sutton United blog Gandermonium, 3 points despite being mooned and sunned. If that's I think someone else was undoing the front of his zipper at some point. He also had 3. And me with just 1 measly point. Didn't even get the whole game right, which you pegged exactly 2-0. So it's 61 for Andy, 58 for our guest spot, and me at 54. I'm still hanging in there, but it's not looking good.
You're hanging in there. You're hanging in there, but we were tied until we changed the structure of this, Mike.
No picks this week.
It's interesting that once you stop cheating, what really happens?
No, this is going to be the death of our podcast.
Having to deal with our friendship.
These constant rumors. I'm not necessarily going to renew my contract until the end of the season, depending on how much I have to keep answering that question. But well, the best news I've heard all week is that we have no picks this week because it is FA Cup weekend. And the next games are, I think, on the 25th, when in fact we don't even have a game. So there'll be 5 non-Arsenal games to pick next week, and maybe I might get one of those right. Sutton game on Monday. I mean, there can't be too much to really talk about that we haven't already discussed for this. I would think that we'll probably be seeing Iwobi in the number 10 for this game, which would make a lot of sense in the context of him not playing against Bayern, even though I fear that he will. Holding, Gabriel, Maitland-Niles, Lucas, Vlad Dragomir, Kwame Ampadu. I mean, are we going to see some of these guys against Sutton, or are they going to put out a strong team?
Yeah, Kwame's going to come out from the coaching staff, and he's going to get a run in the team. Mike, here's the question.
I want to get Kwame on the pod so bad, because he actually, I mean, I loved him 25 years ago when he got into like 2 games, and it was just someone different from the people I saw every week, because the lineups were so regular at that point. You'd see the same 14 guys the entire season, and then all of a sudden, boom, Kwame Ampadu. So yeah, he would be a good guest to have on, because he was a big part of my youth.
Well,
huge part of he was my father.
He fathered your youth. Mike, for the Sutton match, I'm kind of torn with. I want us to take the game 100% seriously, because I feel like this is the best opportunity for us to get some trophy silverware, excuse me. I feel like if we go to Bayern and we get beat 2-0, 3-0, I want us to put the strongest possible 11 out against Sutton.
There's no way Ozil or Sanchez is going to be in the team that day.
But if we get absolutely
because of the field,
if we get battered by Bayern, we have to go out with the strongest lineup. As I said last week, I think we go out with a British lineup. The 6 players that featured against Southampton, I think, feature again. But I really think that if we do nick something at Bayern, then we take this one a little bit cautiously. But we have to go out and just absolutely hand it to Sutton. Yeah.
I mean that could be a confidence destroyer if that game is still,
can you imagine
tied or within a goal in the 70th
Can you
minute.
imagine what's going to happen if we lose to Sutton?
I might switch over. I mean, we've already got some good connections there now, so that's not going to happen. And at most, maybe we draw and we come back to the Emirates, and Sutton's life is made for the next 5 years. But no, I think we'll see a similar lineup to the other FA Cup games. I think I don't think you'll see the top 2, 3, 4 guys even on the squad there, but some people who should be getting a better run, Lucas, Gabriel, those guys will probably be in the game. Rob Holding, I think we'll see.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is exciting. On Thursday, after the Bayern game, I will be joining the fellows from Gooner Talk TV, which is a YouTube channel that has quite a few listeners and watchers. I was watching their stuff today. They were previewing the Bayern match. They do a great job. Tom runs that channel now, and they've asked me to be on Thursday to recap the Bayern game. So I'm looking forward to that. You can search for the Gooner Talk TV on YouTube and subscribe and watch that stuff. It's good. And we
just said it like Donald Trump. Watch that stuff. It is good.
Oh yeah, it's going to be the bigliest. It's going to be huge this week.
I've many friends.
Yes, many people are saying that it's going to be a huge podcast. And we're working on getting Tom and the founder, I think, of the channel, his name is Craig. We're working on getting them on in a couple weeks onto our podcast if scheduling works out. So we appreciate the exchange program that we're having with them as well. So hope to learn more on our pod about kind of how they got their start growing a successful YouTube channel talking about the Arsenal. So and then the last thing to really discuss is our 65th country. We're slowing down a little bit. We only picked up one new country this week.
Oh, man.
Unless you consider New Orleans a country. But Poland is our 65th country. You think? It could be Szczesny. It could be Fabianski. It could be Bielik. Maybe Lewandowski. You think Lewandowski might be?
He seems like a guy who's dedicated to his craft. He's probably thinking these two dudes have the inside knowledge on Arsenal. I should probably listen to them in preparation.
The answer is none of the above. It's Andrew Galata. Does that name ring a bell to you?
No, should it?
Andrew Galata, famous boxer who had about an 18-month arc in professional boxing 20 years ago. He fought Riddick Bowe at Madison Square Garden in a fight that turned into a legit mass riot at Madison Square Garden because he couldn't stop punching Bowe in the penis. I mean, dude was kicking Riddick Bowe's ass. Riddick Bowe was the champion at the time, I believe, or had just been dethroned as the champion after losing to Holyfield, something like that. And Galata was just killing him, and then he just kept punching him in the balls and got warned, and finally he punches him in the balls for the fourth time, gets disqualified from the match. One of Bowe's cornermen come in with a walkie-talkie and hit him over the head, and a riot just like literally through the entire MSG started. And so, that is our target demographic right there. So that is who our listener from Poland is, and he's got nothing better to do at this point anyway. No. And by target demographic, I mean that he's probably somewhat brain dead. And on that note, come on, you Gooners.